bragging non-stop about passing cognitive tests designed to detect early dementia. We are anonymous. We are the ones who do not look away when corruption spreads. We do not stay silent when power turns predatory. We do not forgive. We do not forget. And tonight, anonymous sources from within multiple agencies, from inside conversations that Donald Trump believed were sealed away, reveal a truth that is now exploding across Washington. Trump is panicking, panicking hard, panicking because calls for his immediate arrest have reached a level he cannot control, cannot intimidate, cannot bribe, cannot gaslight. And the more he unravels, the more his own actions expose him. What you are about to hear is the story this regime has tried to bury under propaganda memes, fake videos, banned words, and intimidation campaigns. But you cannot bury the truth when an entire system is cracking, and when the cracks are loud enough for the world to hear. It all started when California Governor Gavin Newsom mocked Trump in a way that cut straight through his armor. Trump and his regime posted an AI torture video they proudly labeled cuffing season. They showed migrants being abused by border agents as if human suffering was content for their cult. That one grotesque post alone should have sparked outrage. But this regime has normalized cruelty so long that some barely blinked. So Newsom responded the only way you respond to tyrants who glorify violence. He posted his own cuffing season video identifying the real criminals, the real felons, the real war criminals: Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth. Newsom hit them where it hurts, in public mocking them relentlessly. And the reason this mockery hit so hard is because, according to anonymous internal sources, Trump is terrified of accountability, terrified of prosecution, terrified of handcuffs, terrified that the image Newsom posted is not satire but prophecy. And while Trump spirals online, the official White House accounts under his regime behave like a teenage troll farm. One post after another reveals not governance, not leadership, but instability. Yesterday alone, they posted another cuffing season video showing Border Patrol and ICE agents torturing migrants, followed by a bizarre, photoshopped image calling Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries a Christmas elf. Then Trump posted on Instagram calling himself the most influential man in Europe.
Gaza's population is on the brink of famine.
Even though, as Reuters and The Guardian have reported repeatedly, European intelligence agencies view Trump as a destabilizing force aligned with Vladimir Putin's interests. That is not influence, that is infiltration. The White House then posted an image labeled illegally the Deportation Express. And across Trump's own social media platform, even some of his followers finally snapped. Comments poured in. This makes me sick. What the hell are we doing? Please stop this madness. Another shameful White House post. How embarrassing. People are waking up, even from inside the MAGA cult. And anonymous insiders confirm Trump sees those comments. He reads them. He rages. He throws things. He screams at staff for allowing criticism to remain visible. This is a man obsessed with control who now feels control slipping through his fingers. But while the public clowns Trump for his memes, and chaos, darker things are happening behind the scenes. A court filing revealed that the Trump regime issued a 6-page list of banned words for the federal Head Start program. Head Start exists to give poor children a chance at early education and nutrition. But the Trump regime banned the words disability, race, women, trauma, Gulf of Mexico discrimination, diverse backgrounds, fostering inclusivity, bias biologically, banned words for children, for teachers, for federal documents. That is authoritarianism hiding in plain sight. This is what regimes do when they fear truth, when they fear empathy, when they fear science, when they fear accountability. And still Trump descends further into his grift spiral. His social media account posted a sales pitch for the Trump Gold Card, claiming it is a path to citizenship. For $1 million, you too can unlock life in America. For corporations, only $5 million. This is not immigration reform. This is corruption with a price tag. This is a pay-to-play citizenship scam designed to funnel oligarch money into Trump's pockets. And back in February, Trump openly said Russian oligarchs would absolutely be eligible.
Would a Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible.
Reuters, AP, and BBC all documented his remarks, validating what national security officials have warned for years. Trump sees America not as a country, but as inventory. Everything for sale, even citizenship, even democracy. Meanwhile, Trump's mental state is deteriorating so visibly that major news outlets are now covering it. MSNBC and Deadline compiled clips showing Trump bragging nonstop about passing cognitive tests designed to detect early dementia.
The next day they'll say, he's crazy. The next day they'll say, oh, he's incompetent. The next day they'll say, this is one of the dumbest human beings ever. And that wasn't working, but I didn't like that one as much. I mean, that was bad. So I asked Doc Ronnie. I love Doc Ronnie. But I said, what do you think about a cognitive test, Ronnie? And he said, sir, there is a test. It's called the X test.
They're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests. The first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe.
He repeats stories incorrectly. He forgets how many times he took the tests. He proudly lists words like person, woman, man, camera, TV, as if solving a national crisis.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that?
In some clips he repeats, I aced it, I aced it, I aced it, like a man trying to convince himself more than anyone else. Analysts from multiple networks have noted that Trump's fixation on these basic tests signals fear. Fear of decline, fear of exposure, fear that people see through his public bravado. And according to anonymous insiders, Trump has privately snapped at aides, demanding new tests because he thinks people are calling him incompetent. He is unraveling in real time. And the economy Trump keeps lying about is collapsing under his own policies. He claims affordability is a hoax, that America is in a golden age, that things have never been better. But Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, a Republican and Trump appointee, told the truth. The economy lost an average of 20,000 jobs per month from April to September. Unemployment has risen. Inflation is being pushed upward by Trump's own tariffs.
Why did we move today? I would say point to a couple of things. First of all, gradual cooling in the labor market has continued.
The body scanner reveals the brutal truth about your body that your regular scale will never tell you. For weeks, my scale...
The Jeffrey Epstein files have become a defining issue for Trump in his first year back at the White House, stoking allegations that his administration is covering up for the most notorious sexual predator in recent American history and his accomplices. But something that's flown under the radar is the story of how this man and his brother, two of them there, both facing charges of rape and human trafficking in Romania, were suddenly allowed to return to the United States, and how the Trump administration might have been involved in that. One of those men, Andrew Tate, is one of the most proudly, violently misogynistic influencers in the world, with an enormous following online, particularly among young men and even teenage boys. And in his online content, he and his brother have bragged about their recruitment and exploitation of women to make pornography. Both brothers have repeatedly denied criminal wrongdoing. Well, now the New York Times, in a remarkable investigative report, finds that they were released from Romanian custody only after Trump administration officials intervened. An official in the White House told the Times that it was not involved in Tate's legal matters. But the Times reports that 6 days before Trump's inauguration, Andrew Tate wrote in a text, quote, I had word from the Trump administration that they're on top of things. I've been told I'll be free soon. And here is how the Tate brothers reacted when, in fact, they were freed. And they boarded their flights back to the States the very next month.
You know you are, Andrew? You know what we are? We are back. We are so back. No one has ever been more back than we just got.
It's true. And we never really left. So now we're back. Never left, but we're massively back.
Megan, too, is a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter for the New York Times, one of the reporters who broke that story, and she joins me now. It's great to have you here. This is phenomenal work.
Thanks for having me.
I say that to you a lot because it's always true. So first, I guess, just for folks that don't know who Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan are, like, can you just give us a sense of who they are and what kind of content they made and what their message is?
Sure. So they are huge stars in the so-called manosphere. Andrew Tate, in particular, has built a massive audience of mostly young men by preaching brazen masculinity and chauvinism. And they have also taught courses on how to date women and exploit women and make money, and have also, very notably, run a porn business for about a decade in which they kind of bragged about basically dating women and then steering those girlfriends into making content, online sexual content, in which they'd take most of the profits.
If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the courses they offered was like a pimping course, right? It had the acronym PIMP,
Yeah,
right?
it was a PhD, short for Pimping Hose Degree.
Yes, and the whole idea was, and again, they would say this, is we will teach you how to find women, create some sort of what appears to be romantic connection with them, and then use that to manipulate them into them making sexual content that you profit off of. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they were born in the United States, but grew up, spent much of their life growing up in Britain. And so they launched this porn business, if you will, around the mid-2010s when they were based in Britain. And then in 2015, they moved to Romania. We found out Andrew was actually under criminal investigation then for alleged assaults of multiple women. And as he tells it, thought that Romania, was a place where you could get away with a lot of stuff that you couldn't get away with in the West.
I think he even said that,
He even
right?
said that, yes.
Yeah, get away with.
Yeah, exactly. And so they they basically relocate to Romania. And so they're running this business out of both like Britain and Romania. They're growing it into a variety of platforms with a variety of women. And so they're doing all these things simultaneously. They're doing the porn business. Then they're teaching the online courses in which they're basically saying, we'll teach you the lessons we've learned from this
And
porn
there's some of the
business.
the MMA stuff, fighting and working out, and they're like, he's super ripped and all that, like all of that stuff adjacent to the sort of exploitation.
Yeah, exactly, like super fitness.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew got his start as a professional kickboxer,
Right.
so it's really maximized that image.
So they have this huge following. Now, so that's sort of uncontested, right? That part of it, like that this is what they're about. And they've said it, and they've talked about needing to treat women like slaves, and you need to dominate them, and you need to treat them like a dog, that you say to them, you give them orders, right? And that you have to condition them the way you condition a dog. That's all stuff they've said. There are a variety of criminal allegations against them. Let's start with the Romania case. That was the reason they couldn't leave the country, because they were under indictment.
That's right. Well, actually, the reality is that they're actually under criminal investigation.
Sorry, criminal investigation. It's a different process.
It's a different process. So they have been, since late 2022, they have been under criminal investigation in Romania. And the allegations are there that they have coerced dozens of women into their porn business, into what amounts to trafficking. And that Andrew has raped one of those women. And there's accusations that he had sex with and beat a 15-year-old. And so those...
I want to just say that again. There's an accusation that he had sex with and beat a 15-year-old.
Correct. And so this case, as the prosecutors have been building this case, they have repeatedly sought to keep these guys confined. And so they had been prohibited from leaving the country as the prosecutors are building this case, with the prosecutors saying that they posed a public danger and a flight risk.
I want to read some of these texts that you have gotten in the article. This is a woman who says, do you want me to be your slave or your wife? This is a woman who, again, he's sort of, it seems to be recruiting kind of quasi-romantically and then maybe trying to move him to something else. You'll do whatever I tell you, which is the same thing. I'll choose a woman to be my wife. She'll love me enough to let me tell her what I feel like. I will decide if she's a slave. And then this is a text exchange in a text chat titled Pimps. This is two associates, along with Tristan, the brother, discussed how to punish a woman who said she would no longer work for them. Tristan Tate, the move now is as follows. Okay, both of you go, get her out of the house. Okay, hit her if you have to. I don't care. Don't let her take her things. Thanks. Okay.
You're right. Those are among the text messages that the prosecutors have gathered. I mean, we've been pouring through hundreds of pages of court records from Romania in which they've gathered together and spelled out what they say is a long pattern of this behavior with a variety of women.
There are other criminal charges in England, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Britain, prosecutors have authorized charges. They're not just under investigation. They've authorized charges of trafficking and rape against both brothers there. And those are charges that they'll have to face when the Romania case is complete. They'll have to go to Britain and face those there. And we also realized, one of the things we discovered in the course of our reporting, I worked on this with my colleague, Isabella Quai, and what we found was that here in the United States since 2022, anti-trafficking agents at the Department of Homeland Security, as well as federal prosecutors here in New York, the ones who eventually won a conviction of Sean Combs, have been investigating the Tate brothers.
We should also note that almost immediately upon return, a girlfriend of Andrew Tate's accused him of assault and rape. He denies those charges. She has now sued him. He has countersued her for defamation.
Right.
So that happened immediately after he came back. Now, everyone, I think, has a picture of these individuals at this point. They were in Romania. It's very clear from your reporting, even though the Trump administration has tried very hard to run away from it and deny it, and Romanian officials have tried to deny it, that there was some pressure put by the Trump administration to get these guys back to the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what we found was that their release from Romania was really the culmination of years-long efforts by Andrew Tate in particular to forge very strategic alliances with prominent figures on the American right, media figures like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, people in the Trump family, first Don Jr. and then Barron, and then eventually some of his supporters who were very public with their support and defense of him and their criticism of the Romanian criminal case ascended into the Trump administration.
Alina Habba has talked about him. Richard Grenell, who has a kind of freelance portfolio and in fact admits that he discussed the case with a Romanian official.
Right. So, right, exactly. Paul Ingrassia, who actually served on the Trump's legal team, he ascends into the administration as well. And so after this new administration comes in, Richard Grenell, in particular, we found, had discussions with at least 2 Romanian officials about the Tate's case. One at Mar-a-Lago in December of 2024, the second in February at an international conference in Munich. And what we also found was that within days of that second conversation, an order from the highest levels of the Romanian government came down to the prosecutors in the criminal case saying, you got to strike a compromise with the Tate brothers. And they did not.
They were unhappy.
They were outraged, but they did follow through with ultimately lifting their travel bans, which the Romanian prime minister believed was going to appease the Trump administration.
It's really a shocking set of events and incredibly scrupulous reporting about all this. And people should check it out at the New York Times, where you can read some of these texts and you can read more about some of the allegations against Andrew Tate and his brother, which the men deny. You should definitely check it out. Megan Twohey.
Powerball and Mega Millions will try to put me in jail for saying this, but I'm going to expose the lottery loophole.
These pictures, some of these photos are really disturbing, and I know we've put some out today. There are many others, and some of the other photos that we did not put out today are incredibly disturbing.
Today's batch of Epstein photos were secured by the House Oversight Committee, even though, like all House committees, right, it's under Republican control. The Republican majority's hand has been forced to some extent, both by the toxic politics of Epstein and quite deft maneuvering of the Democrats on that committee, including ranking member Robert Garcia of California. And Congressman Robert Garcia joins me now. It's good to have you in the program. I want to just follow up with the thing you said this morning, which I think has been haunting all of us all day, about some of these are very disturbing. And I wonder if you can just elaborate what you mean by that, about disturbing, because we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein here.
Right. I mean, look, I think first what's important is obviously we received, this was just yesterday, 95,000 photographs from the Epstein estate. We were able to put out so far probably about 75 to 80 photos throughout the day today, many of which you've seen, a lot of the public has now seen, which is incredibly important for transparency. And our intention is to put out as many of the photos as possible while protecting, of course, the survivors. Including in the photos are many photos of women and many photos that are disturbing and that need to be redacted and that we need to think through very carefully in how those are presented to the public. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we protect the survivors. And I've personally met with numerous survivors, both individually and in groups, and this is critical to the investigation. But make no mistake, that beyond what folks have seen today, Jeffrey Epstein was a sick man. Ghislaine Maxwell was a monster, and the harm and abuse that they have caused women and children needs to be exposed, and the powerful men that did that harm need to be exposed, and there has to be justice.
I want to be clear that from my perspective,
In a bombshell new update from the House Oversight Committee, a new tranche of photos has been released courtesy of the Epstein estate, many of which include Donald Trump himself. Here, for example, is Trump with 6 young women. Another shows Trump-branded condoms. Another...
Donald Trump did something this week that is making the Russians very, very happy. Now, I realize that may not narrow it down very much, but I'm talking about their national security strategy just released. Take a listen.
Tonight, Russia is welcoming President Trump's new U.S. national security strategy, calling it largely consistent with Moscow's, quote, vision.
So why are the Russians thrilled with this? Because this document, which sets out our national security strategy, closely aligns with Moscow. This is what Moscow says. It closely aligns with their vision. Imagine that, America's national security strategy in close alignment with the Kremlin dictator. In fact, if the national security document had a theme song or credits, it would probably look a lot like this.
That have been aggregated from different media reports, some of which are able to be validated with names and actual.
So yeah, Trump's extremely worried about this. And what he does is he masks his worry, his concern by being a bully. That's how Trump operates. And you always get to the point, which is when you basically pop the balloon of the bully and he deflates. And that's what I'm waiting to see if that happens early next year.
Professor Scott Lucas from the Clinton Institute at the University College Dublin, thank you so much for joining the Trump Report on a Saturday.
A very fine morning to you, Maddie. How dedicated are we, eh?